What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 2 of the Natty State Sports Gambling Show, which is still untitled for the time being. We are still reviewing our options, so relax. We're going to have a name eventually. Again, if you have a cool one, send it our way. But we're excited to have this Tuesday episode of the show after getting it launched Thursday. I'm joined here by my good pals, my coworkers, best friends. Fair enough to say?
I think it's fair.
Fair? Okay. Curtis Wilkerson in the middle, Scottie Bordelon. Scottie Bordelon. How we doing, boys? How's morale?
It's pretty good. I think we had a really good day yesterday. Yesterday when I went home while y'all were doing John's show, I was just really excited to come back in today. And so I dropped the kids off, got here at 8 and started coming up with picks. So
you went with a more literal version of that answer. I meant in the gambling world. How are we doing? You doing okay?
Not good. You told me to empty the clip on the Suns last night, and they didn't cover.
No, they did not cover, but they did win.
But I reloaded this morning, and so I'm ready to roll again.
Well, I had probably an historically bad weekend. I do want to apologize to everybody out there. If you listen to what I told you to do, you shouldn't have done that, but it's my damn fault. Okay, it's my fault because my wheelhouse, I'm a college hoops guy, right? And so I come in here on our first show and I'm like, here are my NFL playoff picks, and this is what I see happening in UFC 297. Shut up, dude. Like, stick to hoops. Stick to what you know. I'm going back to my wheelhouse.
Shut up and dribble, Curtis.
Exactly. I'm going to shut up and dribble. I'm going to redeem myself for everybody today. I feel really, really good about some of these things, and quite honestly, I needed to be good because, I lost a bankroll over the weekend, man.
Dude, I feel like such an idiot for betting against Patrick Mahomes against Buffalo in the playoffs.
Well, I did the stupid thing. One, I lost about $300 with Curtis on UFC. We sat next to each other, and it was tough because his wife, Michelle, who, by the way, is one of our biggest haters, biggest Natty State sports haters, or just hater of Curtis, honestly. I see her chirping a lot all the time.
It's wild, man.
I watched him call and be like, yeah, just follow all these picks we're going. Eventually, they're going to turn around.
Yeah,
and
she was in Atlantic City, by the way. So she was like in... Vegas is like the mecca of sports gambling in the United States. Like Atlantic City is second. And so she was like in an actual sports book putting those things in. And I was telling her like, oh yeah, do this, do that. Don't worry about it. Go to sleep. The main event and the co-main are going to go perfectly fine. Oops.
I will say, and look, we're not going to sit here and we talked a lot UFC on the Natty State Six Pack on Monday, and we talked UFC last week. We're not going to do that here, but I will say, Curtis and I, we bet on the right fighters. They just all lost.
Yeah. It's
and
their fault.
None more devastating than our boy Mike Malott, who just quit in the octagon in front of his hometown, in front of his friends and family. We have not forgotten Mike Malott, and we never will. You suck, and you lost to Neil Magny. Got finished by Neil Magny.
Yeah,
that's a tough... When stuff like that happens, like, to put it into context for anyone listening that doesn't know what we're talking about, getting finished via KO by Neil Magny is like having Nathan Peterman throw for 475 yards on your defense, and that's how you got eliminated from the playoffs. It's like, dude, you can't blame us for making that pick. Yeah, I mean, history took place, and
listen, man,
it is what it is.
Canada, there are friendly neighbors to the north, but I'm never betting on one of your fighters again. I'm just not doing it. Sorry. Not happening.
Canada.
Exactly.
I kept singing it to get us hyped up the other day, and then it just never worked. So
we tried everything.
I
man.
hate that song now. But,
I was wearing your hat. We were switching places, like sitting in different spots, trying to pick up the vibes. It just didn't work, man. It was awful.
The only thing Canada that I'm leaning on from now on is Zach Edey and Shea Gilgeous-Alexander.
It's very
fair. They're gonna pick up the Canada vibes again.
You know Andrew Wiggins in that?
Yeah, Andrew Wiggins. Well, he's kind of on the outs a little bit.
Who could forget about Andrew Wiggins?
Who could? Hey, I will say, and Lou Dort is also Canadian, if I'm not mistaken. The Thunder are kind of Canada's home. Yeah. But anyways, I'm glad that you brought up the Thunder because we will be getting to them later because we got some NBA picks, some props, some college hoops. We're going to talk a little college baseball futures, too. I saw a few lines today that stuck out to me. We're not going to dive too much into it, but anything y'all want to discuss on this show, everything's off limit. I mean, everything's on limits, I guess is the term. Nothing is off limits.
Nothing is off limits.
Everything is on limits.
I like it.
There you go.
There are no limits to what we can discuss here. Listen, the first thing I did when I got up this morning was I hopped on Saracen and I scrolled all the way over to the darts to see what was going on. I don't have any recommendations for darts this week. Okay, I'm a dart shark. That's what I want people to understand. Like outside of college hoops, that's my wheelhouse. But if Luke Littler ain't involved, I'm out.
You're not about it.
That's a 16-year-old kid that nearly won the world championship a couple weeks ago. He's a bad man. He's got nothing going on this week, so I got nothing there. But
when Luke Littler, when he's out, you're out. That's how it is.
Exactly. Yeah, he's my guy. I'll ride that train to the promised land. I know we're going to talk about some parlays and stuff a little bit later, but in my effort to absolve myself of my sins last week, I was looking at some college basketball stuff, and there's some underdogs this evening that I feel like it's just reasonable to take a look at. Like, if you want to take a little bit of a risk, like, I don't think that these are crazy to look at. So I'm going to throw a few out here at you guys. I want to see what you think.
Jump right in. Let's go.
I love Georgia Tech. They're plus 125 home underdogs against a Pitt team that's just a couple days removed from like going and winning at Duke. So that's like an emotional game. They're standing on top of press row, like taunting the Cameron crazies. We've talked about all that. But then they just got a couple days and they go on the road to Georgia Tech where like they never have a crowd. Like it's a completely different atmosphere. And Georgia Tech's picked a couple teams off. Like Damon Stoudemire's, doing a pretty good job for them. Plus 125. I mean, I feel like it's reasonable. It's tonight.
I think
so. You're talking about Pitt was in Cameron Indoor on Saturday night. And now Tuesday they're in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Playing Georgia Tech.
As road favorites? Nah, man.
Curtis, I love that pick.
Yeah, plus
that's the kind of
125.
stuff we're looking for.
Yeah, Georgia Tech, give me that. Another one, probably my second recommendation, Ohio State. They're plus 150 at Nebraska. Listen, like the Buckeyes started really, really strong. I think they got off to like a 12-1, 12-2 start. They lost 3 in a row, and so they're like, oh, what's going on? They looked really good over the weekend against Penn State. They blew them out. I really, really like their team. Nebraska, like they're better this year for sure. They've done some good things.
Nebraska is old boy still in Nebraska?
Fred Hoiberg.
Fred Hoiberg is still coaching there?
He was like hot seat Hoiberg going into the season.
He's been on the hot seat at every job he's ever been at. Like I feel like when he was at Iowa State,
exactly.
he was on the hot
and so
seat.
they're better. So I wouldn't call this. I might go ahead and call the Georgia Tech one a lock. I wouldn't call Ohio State getting this road win a lock over Nebraska, but it's a very winnable road game for them at plus 150. Why not? So those would probably be my 2 highest recommendations, but a couple others, like if you feel like getting a little bit frisky, Texas plus 170 on the road in a rivalry game at Oklahoma. So like anytime you're in a rivalry game, you kind of throw, the records and stuff out the window. I thought the horns down.
How about you think Rodney Terry's going to be throwing fits today?
They got back to horns up. Like maybe they got their swagger back a little bit. They got the buzzer beater. They beat Baylor at home. So maybe they're feeling themselves a little bit. Oklahoma
sucks.
Yeah, like they're still hanging in there, but I'm not buying the number 11 ranking in the country. So like at plus 170, with a Texas team that is coming off a big win, but they still really need to like stack the resume because I think when I looked last, they were either in the last 4 in or the first 4 out, like for the tournament. So another opportunity for a quad 1 game. They should be locked in. I like them at plus 70, but at the very least, like covering 5.5 on the road. Why not? And the last one, if you want to take a risk that's got some very high reward that doesn't seem far fetched at all to me, take a look at West Virginia at UCF. So I'm a little bit leery of West Virginia because they're coming off like the Country Roads court storm after beating Kansas, which was awesome, by the way.
That was great.
Like storming the floor to
it's a couple
Country
giant
Roads.
killers with those 2 teams right there because UCF's been kind of knocking some folks off.
That's
too,
exactly right. UCF has been doing that too, but they're also coming off a game against Houston where they shot 16% from the field for the game.
Wow.
UCF made 7 field goals in the game. They
That's
had
an
like 20
Arkansas
free throws.
3-point percentage is what
Yes,
that is.
They were 7 of 44 from the field for the game. And so, look, West Virginia has struggled this year, but they're actually finally getting healthy. Like they got the Raekwon Battle dude back. Maybe the James Edwards kid from Syracuse is going to be back for this game. So at full strength, they're a lot better than their record suggests. And UCF, like, going there, I mean, does Addition Financial Arena give you that big of a home court advantage? Like, I just don't think West Virginia going and winning a road game at UCF is crazy. It's plus 300 on the money line. So for me, like that's at least worth a
What's
sprinkle.
the spread? Like 10?
It's 8.5 minus 8.5.
Minus
UCF
8,
by 8.5.
Yeah, 8.5. So again, I definitely feel good about them covering. But like at plus 300, I'll throw a few bucks on that because that's not crazy.
Yeah.
So
I would assume
my underdog college hoops picks. There you go.
I would assume West Virginia's playing good defense this year.
It's not Bob Huggins level, but they're coming around.
They're not press Virginia. They're just West Virginia this year.
There you go. Yeah.
But I mean, if you're a team that just made 7 field goals in a collegiate basketball game, I bet Bob Huggins is not the coach you want to see.
That's right. It's like UCF can't score, and UCF also has a top 10 defense in the country, adjusted defensive efficiency. So again, like if we're talking about spreads, this could be a game that's, 68 to 62 or whatever, no big deal, low scoring, and so you would think it would be maybe within that number.
For anyone who's listening to this and thinking these guys lose all their picks, they don't make any money. I've been following that Andrew Ellis. He told me the Hogs were going to hit a home run. You're right. I lose bets here and there, but I will say, I feel like we each have our areas where we're pretty solid. Tough for me to come claim that after I just lost a lot of money on UFC, but we have moments where we get hot. And I will say, Curtis, anytime Curtis texts me a college basketball pick, I don't even ask a question. I just remember you texted me Princeton's name one time, and I just immediately bet Princeton, and they won. And I mean, sometimes it just comes down to that. So look, we're not here saying that you're going to win a lot of money listening to this show, but if you listen close, some of these picks, we've listed a few. Some of them are going to hit, right? I mean, some of them. So just take what you like. Scotty, in the college hoops world.
We gave you 4 dogs just now. At least one of them is going to hit. At least one.
Yeah,
like,
surely.
We're good. Anyway, carry on.
Scotty, any college basketball catching your attention the next couple days?
Yeah, so I'm gonna save so I've got a college basketball 3-leg parlay that we can talk about later. But while Curtis was talking, I added one more so I've got 3 games here. I like Duke minus 13.5 at Louisville.
That's fair.
The Ellis revenge game?
If Duke is a serious basketball program, they should beat the hell out of Louisville. You can get that Duke minus 13.5 at minus 120. Maybe my favorite pick of the night is Keisei Tominaga, the guard, the Japanese guard at Nebraska. That kid is fun as hell to watch.
He is
and
a
listen to
blast.
this. His over-under on points, over 14.5 points, minus 125. He's at home. Nebraska's at home against Ohio State. And I was just looking at his home-road splits. He's averaging almost 16 a game at home. So he's obviously a better scorer, more comfortable shooting the basketball in home games.
If I remember correctly, he went nuts when they beat Purdue in that building a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, he had 19 against Purdue. He
Yeah.
also had a game when Nebraska beat Indiana by 16. He had 28. So this kid's capable of really filling it up.
I like that, Scotty.
So over 14.5 points for Keisei Tominaga. He's really, really fun. And then this, I don't know how I feel about this, and you guys might be able to walk me off this plank. BYU plus 2.5 at home against Houston, minus 110.
Well, I'm the wrong person to ask about BYU. I've lost more money on BYU this year. I've been doubting
is
BYU.
at home.
I've been doubting BYU at every step of the way, and they keep winning. Curtis, how do you feel about the Cougs?
Well,
our boy Jackson Robinson over there holding it down.
They're good, and BYU is a weird place to play.
Yeah.
My only thing with it is like Houston.
Not for Sam Pittman. He won there.
That's fair. Houston got off to kind of a weird start. It's like their inaugural season or whatever in the Big 12. It is for BYU also. But it seems to me like they figured some things out. And at the end of the day, I just look at in a battle of Cougars, like I'm going with Kelvin Sampson. Like I just got to go with Kelvin Sampson.
It's hard to argue with that, but like BYU at home,
If they're shooting it with,
Yeah.
like if they're
Yeah.
knocking down threes, which they do, and if they're doing it at home, that's
BYU
tough.
on the money line is plus 115. So I mean, there's a little bit of juice there. I don't want to take them outright. I don't think I'm that confident in it, but give them 2.5 points. I think it'll be a close game.
Yeah.
I think my deal is I look at these picks through a lens of what should happen, and I don't really account for maybe Houston has a bad shooting night, and they just like for one night they just can't defend, and maybe one night Jackson Robinson hits 8 threes again. Like I don't think about that kind
Although
of thing.
he's done it a couple times now. I feel like every time I check his numbers, they're better than I would have guessed. Because every time I watch them, he's Arkansas Jackson Robinson with that flat jumper, and it just isn't the same. But then when I check his numbers, it's like, oh, he's shooting 50% from 3. I'm like, oh.
Listen, like what I just said, like it's case in point is Duke minus 13.5. Duke should go to Louisville and just pound them.
Yeah.
Well, they're at Louisville too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder. It's not like the crowd's going to be huge there in Louisville, right?
I wouldn't imagine.
I don't know
Maybe
what
they'll
there is
just
to do in Louisville, but I bet there's better things to do than watch that basketball team. So.
Well, I know what there is to do in Louisville. Shout out to my buddy Stephen Arnold, who is in dental school in Louisville. Actually, that's not true. He just moved to St. Louis, but that's what
Point
you do in
stands.
Louisville.
Clean teeth.
Going with that theme, Scotty, of people doing what they're supposed to do and taking teams that are supposed to win. I love Texas A&M minus 11.5 at home against Missouri. 11.5 is a big number.
Missouri's bad.
Is Texas A&M good enough to be favored by double digits at home against anyone? Probably not, especially because they lost LSU by 15 in that very arena. But to your point, Scotty, Missouri is very bad. We've been watching the Tigers. We like to monitor them just to see how they're doing. They stink, guys. They might be the one team Arkansas I'm very confident is going to beat at least once. They might not beat them twice.
Me and Scotty talked about this yesterday, or maybe it was Sunday. I can't remember. The last time we did the pod, the Palace of Days are running together. But at first I was looking at that thinking, man, that is a big number. I don't know. But Scotty really talked me into it. And I went back and looked at Missouri more, and they're kind of like Arkansas. Like they've been getting the hell beat out of them in league play outside of like a 2-point overtime home loss to South Carolina. But like when they go on the road, Alabama beat them by more than 11.5. Who else did they play on the road?
They played. I just looked at their schedule.
Somebody else beat them by more than 11.5 on the road, and then they just lost by a dozen at home to Florida. Like I look at Missouri and I see Noah Carter as their 6'6" starting center. And I see Texas A&M, who just came to Bud Walton Arena and had like 3,000 offensive rebounds. So, yeah, why not?
Well, and also, I think A&M, so they lose to Arkansas last week, which obviously was a tough one coming off the Kentucky win. So they fall to 1-3 in SEC play. They bounced back and beat LSU on the road, an LSU team they had previously lost to, which, again, not an impressive win, but one that they needed. They're kind of in that mode where it's like they can't afford to lose this game. And they're definitely not going to lose outright to Missouri. I'll say that right now. Y'all can clip it if you want. They're not going to lose to Missouri at home. If they do, they should really be ashamed of themselves. And then all of a sudden, we'd really have to close the book on Arkansas because like that was the only hope we had is that they beat A&M. So if Missouri goes into College Station and beats them, we talked about whether or not Buzz or Muss who would win in a fight. If they lose to Missouri at home, I will change my answer to Muss officially.
All right.
Despite the fact that he just lost to South Carolina at home. Perfect segue because the next team I'm betting against is South Carolina, who just came into Bud Walton Arena and won a game. A lesser man may look at that and say, hey, good performance from South Carolina. A correct man will look at that and say, Arkansas sucks. Arkansas quit. South Carolina was playing against nobody the other day. They're only 5.5-point underdogs on the road. No, I lied. They're at home. They're at home against Kentucky.
Yeah.
I have Kentucky going in there, and I think, I'm not saying they're going to blow them out, but I don't think South Carolina is good. I think Kentucky is going to win this game. I think it's going to be comfortable. I think it'll end up in that kind of 8 to 10 to 12 range. So it might come down to a few free throws at the end, but I just am going to be confident betting on the very good basketball team to beat the bad basketball team. That's how I like in the SEC, and I believe both those games are tonight, right? Those are the only 2 SEC games, or is there maybe one more?
Those are the only 2 tonight. Yep.
Yeah. I like that Kentucky team a lot, and I'll get into them a little bit more later. But I had one of my bets over the weekend that I mentioned was Kentucky, Georgia over 162.5.
Yeah,
and there was like 18 points scored in the first 3 minutes of that game, and I'm like, hell yeah, we're rolling.
Yeah, it was electric in here.
They
watching
ended up Georgia and Kentucky scoring 201 points.
That's insane.
I mean, they probably scored more collectively than some NBA teams did over the weekend. I haven't looked that up, but I mean, they were Kentucky's offense is legit, and their defense is just bad enough to where they can keep their opponents in games by giving up buckets.
True.
And so it's perfect.
By the way,
you threw out to me. I think it was Kentucky that their over is hit in how many games in a row? Or
the over in Kentucky games has hit 14 of the last 15 now.
Whew. What does it say that in this game? Or am I stealing your thunder? Does that come later?
You're
okay,
good.
Go ahead.
That's one leg of the 3-leg later.
So yes, you are stealing his thunder.
155.5.
Okay.
It's like, no, you're not stealing my thunder. It's just one of the 3 legs of my parlay.
But that is an interesting one too, though, because like South Carolina hasn't scored on anybody in the SEC besides Arkansas. But if there is a team besides Arkansas they could score on in the SEC, it's probably Kentucky. So.
Right.
I mean, with that A&M team that we just talked about, what they score on Kentucky? 91, 92, 90-something? They scored a lot. I mean, it went into overtime.
92
it went into overtime, but they had like 80, 88 at regulation, too.
Yeah.
Also, if you're an Arkansas fan listening to this, which, I'm going to assume most of you guys are, you want Kentucky to win big tonight, right? I mean, you do not want Kentucky to come in. Because, they'll be ranked number 6 regardless because the rankings aren't going to update, but you kind of want Kentucky coming in here rolling a little bit.
At this point, you want them as good as possible.
Right. And also, it would, if you want to do a little bit of a moral test there, if they beat South Carolina and then you beat them at home, you could kind of talk yourself into that being making up for losing to South Carolina at home. It won't, but I'm just going by the mental gymnastics of what Arkansas fans will want to do.
I respect it.
Last thing I want to touch on with college hoops before we move on. Georgia and LSU play tomorrow night. I did not see a line out. I didn't sift the internet too hard, but Saracen doesn't have a line. There's not many. CBS doesn't have a line. DraftKings. Georgia and LSU play tomorrow in Athens. I don't know what that line is, but whatever it is, I'm blindly betting Georgia. Both of those teams are 3-2 in the SEC right now. I'm not convinced either are good, but I'm more convinced that LSU is not good, evidenced by them losing at home to A&M the other day. I think both those teams are due for a little bit of a regression, but I think Georgia is closer to being a competent, real team, you know?
Yeah, I'm most confident that Georgia will be able to score on their home floor.
Right, and that's another thing is like, so look, maybe the spread ends up being 8, whatever it is. If it's 15, I'm blindly betting Georgia. I don't care. I think they're going to beat LSU. I think they're going to beat them comfortably. Again, I'm not buying stock in the Bulldogs, but I think they're positioned well to be a team that like misses the tournament by a little bit and then does the thing where they're like momentum into next year. I can see that. And Mike White, former Louisiana Tech Bulldog head coach, got to support my boys. Ever loyal B.
That's right.
I didn't even graduate from there. I went to LSU. But guys, if y'all don't mind, I would like to move on to what I would consider one of my minor specialties, because last night I had a huge night. NBA props. Let's talk about some, and we talk about NBA, just teams, whatever, but I would really like to discuss the National Basketball Association. I'm kind of buzzing. Last night, the Celtics took care of business and beat the Mavericks at home, and it was an awesome game. I typically like to bet unders when it comes to star players because the numbers are pretty high most of the time. Like, for instance, Joel Embiid had 70 last night. If you wanted to bet on Joel Embiid's point total, it's going to be like 42.5 on whenever he plays next. So it's like you need a lot to go right for those star things, but I went ahead and took Luka and Jason Tatum to have points, rebounds, assists. Luka was at 58. I needed Tatum to get 50. They both smashed that at like plus 250. It was pretty sweet. It was a fun game where just the stars went back and forth. But going off that same, I mentioned Embiid having 70 last night, which again, if anyone didn't catch it, Joel Embiid scored 70 points in the National Basketball Association last night. Karl Anthony Towns in a loss scored 62. So apparently,
maybe it was a loss because he wasn't playing in the final minutes of the game. Like he's like the defensive sub or whatever.
Yeah. Karl Anthony Towns has had a fascinating career, but Nikola Jokic plays basketball of the night. He is on the road at the Indiana Pacers. The Nuggets are favored by like 4.5. The key here is any blowout puts you in danger of, if you're betting the over on any player, having a blowout is a situation where you're probably going to lose that. But I like Jokic to go over, even though I just said don't bet on star player overs. I like Jokic over 28.5 points. They're on the road into Indiana. Joel Embiid just went for 70. So I think, if you're a top center in the NBA, especially a guy like Jokic who has kind of been compared to Embiid and has had the upper hand in that rivalry.
It's the MVP race.
I have a
Jokic,
feeling.
I don't know if he's in it this year or not. But
now, if you Nikola Jokic, if you watch him, he might not love basketball. He might not even care about basketball. He might not even know. But I'd imagine if someone relays it to him that Embiid had 70, we can get 30 out of our boy.
I mean,
here.
the Pacers they got the next to last defense.
That's a great point.
Scoring defense. Go for it.
And I think, also you're betting on a very good, maybe the best player in the league to score 29 points, which he can do at any point.
123 points per game, dude.
I like Jokic
games.
to score 30. I'm going to talk about another fat superstar, Zion Williamson, who is close to my heart. Look, guys, I've been a Zion Williamson defender and like fanboy since he was at Duke, since he ripped his shoe in front of Obama that one time, since he blocked that 3-point shot at Virginia. Like, when he was in college, I could not take my eyes off of him. Like, every game I was tuned in, making sure I was watching Zion. I've been cheering for him to kind of turn the corner and become a guy.
If you made him a cheeseburger, he'd hang out with you.
Apparently that's all I needed to do, or maybe cook him some gumbo. I bet he's had a good bit of boudin.
If you handed him a table, he would eat the table.
That's also
according
true.
to Stephen A. Smith's sources. That's what he was told. But Zion's actually been playing some good ball this year. The Pelicans have been cruising. Like, I don't know what they've won like 10 of their last 13. Like, they've been playing really well. They're getting into they're looking like they might have home court in the West in the playoffs. So they're a fun team to watch. And I really like Zion. They're at home against the Jazz, who have also been playing well. The Jazz have our boy Walker Kessler, who we all remember from Auburn. So that's going to be kind of the one in the way here. But I have Zion over 35.5 points, rebounds, assists. He's projected for 25 points, which is like right at what he averages. So if he goes over that and gets up to 30, then you're pretty good on the points, rebounds, assists. He's also one of those guys that isn't projected to have a ton of rebounds and assists, but he's 6'7", 290, so he could at any point have 10 rebounds. he's had some weird high assist games lately. Like they've been running some offense through him, getting him a little bit more mixed. He had a 9 assist game in his last outing. So I think that's another factor here. 35 points, rebounds, and assists, or it's 35 and a half. So he's got to go over that. But I just feel like with Zion, there's a few different ways he can do it. I'm cheering for the fat, as our resident fat ass. I feel like I have the authority to speak on the body language and the demeanor of fat guys. And Jokic and Zion are two I've got my eye on tonight. It's going to be a good night for the big boys.
I like it. Scotty, do you have anything like specific, like player prop wise for the NBA or no?
Earlier I mentioned you got to lift up the Canada vibes after the UFC weekend.
Got to lift them up.
Yeah, definitely.
Brother.
SGA tonight against Portland, his points are set at 31.5. Or I think you can get his points, rebounds, and assists at 43.5, which I think I like that better. Because he could have a 30 and 10 game, grab a few boards, and then cashes out.
My guy is not Canadian, but I'm actually looking at that same game for another one of my picks. I like Chet Holmgren. Y'all remember the name Chet Holmgren, Arkansas fans from Gonzaga?
That's Trey Wade's son, right?
Trey Wade's son, yes.
Trey Wade's.
So, Trey Wade, if you're listening, let us know if we needed to reverse course on this one. I've got Chet at over 17.5 points. Having a good rookie year. He's averaging right around that same 16, 17 points. You mentioned Shea, who's awesome. The Thunder score a lot. They're one of the best offenses in the league. That's a fun young core. You got Jalen Williams, the non-Arkansas Jalen Williams. You got Jalen Williams, the Arkansas Jalen Williams. J-Dub, J-Will. I think that's how they choose those. Isaiah Joe's been playing some good ball. I'm all in on the Thunder. I went and watched them in person over Christmas break, and I'm all in on them. I love watching them play. And Chet's a guy that he hit a little bit of that rookie wall here in the last, over the holidays, where he was not cooking as much, but it looks like he's ready to kick it back into gear. And so I kind of like Chet here tonight. I think he's going to go over 17.5 points. Also 27.5 points, rebounds, assist, if you're into that kind of thing. I like it. But again, we talked about the blowout situation. At home against Portland is prime time. Thunder might win by 50. So if they
very well could, yeah.
So if Chet and SGA are on the bench for the entire second half, don't blame us.
I think I'm going to shift. I'm going to change course here and go away from SGA.
You're allowed to do that.
You talked me into Jalen Williams, the Santa Clara Jalen Williams. His points number is 19.5 at -110. Look at his game log. He's gone over 19 4 straight games and 5 of the last 6. I think I like that.
That Jalen Williams actually. So I've been betting their props a lot. He's one he averages 3 rebounds and 2 assists or something low like that. So if you wanted to get his points, rebounds, assists, you're probably getting good value because if he grabs 6 boards, they're not accounting. He doesn't do much outside of scoring. So guys that are like him and Zion, who are not projected for a ton, I kind of like the value there.
And he's averaging a shade under 19 for the season, so it's not like it's going to be wild if he does this.
I want to mention one more NBA thing before we kind of move on to our final closing segments here. I like the Lakers +9. They're not at home. They're technically on the road against the Clippers, who are playing the same arena. But LeBron James is going to be out for this one. I love LeBron, but Anthony Davis is a game-time decision. So I'm putting an asterisk. If he doesn't play, I change my mind. And the line's going to shoot up to +17. I like the Lakers to keep it within single digits. The Lakers are not playing tremendous basketball here, but keep it within single digits at home. And Anthony Davis has been playing good ball. So I think if he's a game-time decision, I think if he ends up going, they're going to lean on him heavy. I think he can get him going, Curtis. What you think? You're looking at me crazy.
Hey, Disney.
You're telling me that LeBron and AD might not play, but the Lakers are going to do anything. The important clarification was if AD ends up not playing, all bets are off.
Who are they playing? Literally. They're playing the Clippers at home, or at their shared home, who have been playing awesome basketball. The Clippers have been awesome lately, but I think they're due for a little bit of
LeBron's already ruled out, right? And
he's already ruled out.
AD, you don't know.
AD's game-time decision.
Fair enough. I wanted to ask you about your boy, though. Nick
I got
Claxton.
a lot of boys. Nick Claxton.
How do you feel about Nick Claxton? Well, here's what I need you to tell me. Is he a double-double kind of guy?
He's a double-double kind of guy. They go to him way more than you would think. And, Curtis, if you're thinking of going Nick Claxton over, you're going to really like the parlay I have cooking up later tonight.
Oh, good to know. Good to know. Well, you see, I don't get as deep as you guys into the weeds of the eighth man off the bench on your average NBA team. It's just that
here's the thing with Claxton.
Don't go there. So
when I went and watched the Thunder play the Nets at home over Christmas break, and Claxton, they started Claxton in, and he was making the free throws. but he plays a good bit down the stretch. Like, I thought he sucked when he was at Georgia. I remember him at Georgia, and I didn't think he was good.
Yeah.
And I bet his under that game that I'm referring to, and he killed me. He is definitely a double threat. He plays more than you would think. Well, he's interesting.
Let me throw a couple things at you then, because what I usually do, unless I get some really good advice from you guys, which tends to happen,
never happens,
is like I wake up, I get on Saracen, I look at the NBA specials every day, and those are like those are tricky, but that's the point. But if anything kind of strikes me, then I'm like, oh, let me throw it out here at these guys and see what they think. So I saw 2 of them today, and I wanted to throw them at you. And one was Jokic, Claxton, and Lauri Markkanen all to record a double-double. And that's at plus 425.
Ooh.
By the way, you mentioned Jokic having a double-double. I was scrolling through some stuff looking at it. Jokic to not have a double-double is plus 350 tonight on Saracen. To not have a double-double. And I looked at it and I was like, that's crazy. I went and looked at his game log. He's had a double-double in like 11 of the last 12.
Every game of his career, basically.
Yeah.
So Jokic, Claxton, and Markkanen double-doubles at plus 425. Like,
Markkanen rebounds,
to throw a little bit on that, right?
Yeah, Markkanen does rebound.
Yeah.
That's the only thing he does is score and rebound. He doesn't play defense. He doesn't pass. He doesn't really dribble, but he scores and rebounds. So,
and speaking of rebounding, I need to know where we're at with a couple guards, because I haven't been checking these stats. Like, SGA, is he a rebounder?
No.
Not at all?
Not at all, but I mean like 3-4 a game type of thing.
Okay.
But like I was saying, I kind of like betting on stuff like that, because like any NBA player on any given night can have 10 rebounds.
Yeah.
Literally, the ball just bounces your way. And so I tend to like guys. Like, for instance, Jokic is projected. His over-under for rebounds is 11.5. So if you're betting Jokic points, rebounds, assists, or whatever it is, like, you have to take that into account that he's projected for 12 boards. Whereas, like, SGA projected for 3 or 4. So Scottie having his PRA,
he is averaging 5.6 boards for the season.
That's more than I would have thought.
I'm glad you said that, because the other special that caught my eye was SGA, Zion, and then James Harden. Over 5.5 boards, and it's a plus 250. I don't know if
James Harden's going to screw you, man. He does not like to.
He strikes me as a guy that doesn't really like go inside the arc much. So
especially
those
not now.
They're going to have to fall in his lap.
Yeah, okay.
I love James Harden, man. I really do. But
so the double is a better idea.
I like the double a lot more.
All right,
but hey,
cool.
for anyone listening, we're going to have this up today, so hopefully you had to get in before tonight. Those specials are fun. I like those specials.
Yeah.
Well, Curtis, you bringing up Nick Claxton kind of leads me right into our segue with these parlays that I want to mention.
Cool.
Because my parlay comes from that same game. We've got a Villanova under parlay is what we've got. And when I say Villanova under, I don't mean I do mean the college basketball team, but I'm referring to Mikal Bridges and Jalen Brunson, who are playing against one another today. The Nets are playing the Knicks. Bridges is projected for 21.5 points. I've got that under. I've also got Brunson's over at 28.5. Now, when I first saw both of those numbers and just seeing those two guys, my gut reaction was those are high. Like, those seem a little high. Mikal's averaging 21 a game, so it's like perfect for him. Brunson is averaging about 26.5 per game. But if you go look at his game log, he has been out of his mind lately. Like, shooting, like making 38 and 7, 42 and 6, like stuff like that. But if you go look at the rest of his season, it doesn't really match his output. Like, he's not a high usage. He has a high usage average of 26, but he doesn't usually take 24 shots and stuff like that. So I'm expecting a little bit of a regression there from our boy Jalen Brunson. That's another game that I think has a little bit of blowout potential, which could ruin the double-double thing. But I think the Knicks at home, they're pretty much at home against the Nets. I think there's a chance they blow those guys out. And if they do, Jalen Brunson's not going to score 30, I wouldn't imagine. But if you parlay those two things together, the Villanova under parlay, plus 220, just two same-game parlay, unders on their point totals. You can mix that around if you want, but I like that at plus 220. And if your boy Nick Claxton is over here cleaning the glass and getting 26 and 14, they're not going to have any room to score. That's where I'm going.
I like it. I like it a lot. As I said, I need to redeem myself a little bit, and so I'm going with a college basketball parlay. And so, listen, take this combination however you want, but I'm guaranteeing this. Okay. I've got Wisconsin, Syracuse, Butler, 3-leg money line at plus 325, and so all three of those teams are favorites at least minus 155. Okay. Syracuse, they're at home against a bad Florida State team. Should win that
Florida
game.
State really sucks. I've only watched them once this year, but they suck.
Wisconsin and Butler are both on the road, but they're playing trash teams. Like, Wisconsin's at Minnesota. Minnesota's bad. Butler's at Georgetown. Georgetown is a joke. And so
Minnesota lost to Missouri.
Yeah,
home.
exactly. 100%. That's right. And so I'm going to tell you right now, like if you go with that 3-leg, like you're going to be happy that you did it. If you want to get weird, okay?
Get weird.
Add a 4th. And I don't usually advise that, okay? I usually try to stick to 2 or 3. Add a 4th and make it Dayton -8.5 at LaSalle. Dayton basketball, really, these dudes are a freaking wagon. They're the number 16 team in the country. Deron Holmes is a borderline first-team All-American, and they're just rolling through the A-10. LaSalle on the road, it doesn't matter. Like, they're going to cover that.
LaSalle one time this year, they did me real dirty. Real dirty.
I love the
Screw those
mid-major,
dudes.
like, home favorites, or I don't know if they're at home, but I just mean, like, the teams that are favored to win their conference. Because how, like, all those teams, like a Dayton or a Gonzaga or whoever, they always enter the tournament at like 17-1 in conference play, and you're like, oh wow,
right?
They were just winning, and like Missouri Valley. Is Wichita State in that conference, or is that Ohio Valley?
They were. Wichita State's in the American.
Yeah,
now.
they're in the American now. But back when they were in the Missouri Valley, I used to love betting on them because they would be like -7 on the road against a horrible team.
There was
like,
a time when Creighton was in the Missouri Valley, like back in the day.
Yeah. Love
and they
that.
were dominating that. So yeah, like if you want guaranteed money tonight, plus 325 on Wisconsin, Syracuse, Butler. If you want to get weird and bump that up to what it'd be, get risky and go up to plus 729, and that's kind of crazy.
Yo.
Just throw Dayton -8.5 and they're on top of it. I'm telling you.
Scotty, take us home.
Mine's not as spicy as Curtis's is, but my 3-leg college basketball parlay, Kentucky at South Carolina over 155.5. Creighton money line at home against Xavier, and then Texas A&M money line versus Missouri. That 3-leg parlay is plus 177. So it's not like it's plus money, obviously. So you like that a little bit. If I could interest you in an NBA little 2-legger in
You can.
the
You
NBA,
have my interest.
I'm rolling with Jalen Williams over 19.5 points and Clippers money line. That's a little bit soft going Clippers money line, but dude, I was looking at the Clippers schedule earlier. On the night that Arkansas beat Duke, the Clippers were 8-10 after a loss to Golden State. They're now 27-14. Clippers are playing really good ball. That team scares the hell out of me. I hope the Suns don't see them in the playoffs. They can score, especially if the Lakers don't have Bron and A. Disney.
Yeah.
They're going to freaking roll.
Well, it's funny. Is like, I'm a good man, so I'm going to admit when I'm wrong here. I like your pick a lot more than I do, like the Clippers money line, because one, we just talked about AD that might be a scratch tonight. That line's going to bump up to like, you probably won't even be able to bet their money line once he, and then again, based on the line, I'm guessing he plays tonight.
That 2-leg
but I still
NBA,
think, AD by himself is still that's an uphill battle. I think they can I'm hoping they keep it within single digits, but the Clippers I feel like are a safe bet. Plus, home court.
Yeah, that counts for a lot there. That NBA 2-leg plus 142. Again, not crazy, but I think it's very, very, very doable.
I like it, guys.
Andrew,
Wait, go ahead. What were you going to say?
Before we wrap up, I want to go to your wheelhouse, 90 seconds or less, college baseball futures. I know you've been looking at
That's exactly
them.
where I was going to go.
I wanted to tee you up because I love teeing you up for baseball. I love it.
So, okay, guys, I'm not coming here guaranteeing anything. I'm not saying you have to bet these things, but if someone offers you plus odds on the Sun coming up tomorrow, you probably should take it. If you can get it where you can. Arkansas is plus 115, not to win the College World Series, not to make the tournament, not to make the College World Series. They just have to be one of the 8 teams remaining.
They're probably going to host a regional and a super.
They're probably going to host both. Yeah, you're looking at that.
Win those.
LSU, I looked at it. LSU's ranked below Arkansas. They were like minus 130 to make the College World Series, which, look, maybe they do, maybe they don't. Maybe all these teams do. Maybe none of them do. But I just think when you look back at some of these Arkansas teams, that 2015 team that had Andrew Benintendi, but they had just an absolute garbage pitch. Zach Jackson was having to do everything. That team was, 15-15 in the SEC, patching it together with Band-Aids. They made the tournament. They made the World Series. Like, Arkansas's had far worse teams do it. Again, we're not guaranteeing they do, but it's like plus odds for the most talented Arkansas team we've ever seen to make the World Series when they pretty much do it every other year anyway. I don't know. Like I said, if someone offers you plus odds on, the world ending one day, you should probably take it because these are inevitabilities more like they are bets.
Right. That's a great
also
one.
I was just looking at it. Arkansas is plus 525 to win the SEC. Arkansas is also plus 1100 to win the College World Series, which by the way I thought is interesting because I would argue it's harder to win the SEC than it, or the SEC than it is to win the College World Series. Weirdly enough, because I mean, we talked about all these Arkansas teams that have made it to Omaha. Only a couple of them have actually won the SEC regular season title. So,
dude, if that rotation, the weekend rotation, stays intact, like it's hard for me to not look at that and go, dude, I gotta get in on this because, I mean, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, like all three of those guys are dirty. They're filthy.
Well, if we're talking about just making it to Omaha and you come to that criteria, say Arkansas is hosting Super Regional, you're saying a team has to come into not Budwalden Arena. I guess they could come there if they want. If they want to play at Budwalden Arena, maybe they do. But they'll come into Baum Walker, and they're going to have to beat two of either Hagen, Tigert, or Mason Molina. Like,
good luck.
It just seems like, I mean, it seems like
you earned it. Yeah.
Again, it's a bet that you would want to be on this side of when that moment arises. Because I'd imagine Arkansas will be like, even if Arkansas was, say they're the number 4 overall seed and they play the number 13 overall seed, they'll be like minus 275 to win the series. So it's like in that moment, you'd much rather have Arkansas at plus 115 here. But just a little quick before, I mean, we've gone over a little bit over our expected time anyway. Just wanted to run through. LSU per Saracen is the quote-unquote favorite to win the SEC at plus 450. Florida's at plus 475. Arkansas comes in third there at plus 525. A&M plus 700. Vanderbilt plus 750. Tennessee plus 850. Any of those stick out to you, there you go. Boys, it was a productive John Neighborless show. We didn't have our boss here to supervise us, so we got a little off the rails, got a little wild.
I think people got a lot to gnaw on, a lot of money to be made or lost.
Well, and look, guys, we're not here guaranteeing these picks, but what we are doing is throwing a lot of stuff at the wall. It's up to you to pick from that wall what you like.
If it doesn't stick, you'll let us know. If it does, we'll let you know.
Yeah. Well, and like that's to say, if you want to tweet at us and make fun of us or not hitting our bits, okay, it is what it is. If you want to congratulate us when all these bets do hit, you can do that as well. I forgot to mention that of the three of us, I'm the one who clearly knows Arkansas basketball at a high level because I had Chandler Lawson hitting his prop the other day, and that came through.
That was the best one.
Well, it's plus 210 also. That was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad I called dibs on it before y'all could.
I danced around with that one, and then I was like, well, Curtis said Arkansas is going to hit 10 threes, so if they hit 10 threes, it must, their assist numbers are probably going to be.
Say that.
Yeah. Curtis did say that.
The assist numbers are probably going to be pretty nice unless Caleb Battle gets off the chain again and starts hitting off the dribble threes or whatever. So
yeah. We'll be on the lookout for
what a bummer.
We'll have our best bets out when those double R props come out for this Ole Miss game. So be on the lookout for that. I'll go ahead and tell you right now, like whatever the most negative thing for Arkansas is, like over turnovers or whatever, like I'm in. I'm
under
taking it.
points, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, and hey, if you're listening to this right now today, we're filming this on a Tuesday. If you're listening to this on a Wednesday night and you're like, hey, all these games already happened, we will be we'll be back here in this same studio on Thursday to kind of preview the weekend. We're going to talk about some NFL, maybe some more NBA stuff. We'll maybe do a little victory lap for all these bets that we put out today. But if you're listening and think, hey, they talked about stuff I don't want to, again, reach out to us. Let us know. Whatever you're betting on out there in the world, whoever you are listening to this, there's like a 50-50 chance that at least one of us or John, who's not here, we're probably betting it, or we at least got our eye on it. So, hey, like I said, everything is on limits. Not to be confused with nothing is off limits. Everything is on limits.
Love it.
Which almost sounds like there are limitations, but there are no limits. Moral of the story is we will talk about whatever. We will bet on it, whatever. There are no shortage of things we can lose money on. But, guys, I appreciate you joining us. We had a good show. Productive.
Loved
Feeling
it.
good.
Yeah. Yep.
The vibes are high. Listen, we had a rough weekend. We're licking our wounds a little bit, but, hey. Good night last night in the NBA, kind of cut into it a little bit. By Friday, we'll be
up will be electric.
We'll be cooking, yeah.
That North Carolina game, I think I texted y'all about it. I said I'm taking North Carolina like -9, so y'all know whether or not I have to throw money back into my Saracen account. I hit that one. Was feeling pretty good.
We're on the come up.
Yeah,
the good thing is you can always
just made sense.
You can always add more money into your Saracen account.
Always, yeah. They
let you just do unlimited deposits. So it's like if you lose all your money, just like throw more in there. Like it's fine. Guys, it was a fun show. Before we get out of here, do y'all want to guess what Arkansas's line will be tomorrow? I'm going to guess Arkansas +8 at Ole Miss.
Ooh.
Plus 6.5.
+6.5. Okay.
Yeah, I'll go +5.5.
All right.
Okay.
We'll see.
Well, guys, I appreciate y'all tuning in to episode 2 of the Natty State Sports Still Untitled Gambling Show. We'll be back Thursday with more action. Be sure to check us out on all our social medias, Natty State Sport or Natty State Sports, depending on the outlet. But if you can't find us on the internet, I don't know how do you manage to get here without seeing the other stuff, but we appreciate you tuning in, and until next time, we'll see you Thursday.